Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they got into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Spartan Transportation and Spartan Logistic Management is your one source for all your shipping needs. 53-foot dry van shipments, auto transport shipments, full-service in-house brokerage, drop lot facilities, just-in-time deliveries to all auto manufacturers, facilities in St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and Indianapolis, Indiana. Spartan Logistics LLC, proud sponsor of the IROC series, Kyle Steffens UMP Modified and Silver Crown driver, and Gordy Gundaker, World of Outlaws late model. Visit us at spartan-logistics.net or find us on Facebook.
This legendary oval broke ground in November of 1957 to build what is now known as the world's center of speed, the Daytona International Speedway. Today we blaze a new trail as we set sail for the first points-paying race of the season here on GSRC. This fixed setup series will kick things off in their 5th season here following last week's shootout. Same track as last week, but with points on the line, it's going to be a whole nother ballgame. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Chad Irvine. Here with me in the booth is Chris Foby. Behind the scenes, our director, Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As we get set for tonight's race, let's take a look at this week's track guide.
Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. This track began life after Bill France Sr. realized the Daytona Beach road course had outgrown itself. With ambitious plans and the blessing of the city officials, he built what would become the very first superspeedway in NASCAR history. At 2.5 miles and with 31 degrees of banking, stock cars easily reach speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Pretty much every car can take the course flat out. This makes for one of the most unique styles of racing motorsports has ever seen. The slipstream allows drivers to stay with one another so easily that it becomes less about the speeds each driver can reach and more about the strategy of racing in a pack. Bump drafting is a technique in which the car behind actually pushes the car in front so that both are able to reach higher speeds. And side drafting is another in which the drivers use the air off the sides of their cars to slow their opponents down. Staying out of trouble is always a difficult aspect of superspeedway racing, and it's not uncommon to see drivers intentionally move to the back of the pack to avoid the chaos. In fact, the high speeds make large wrecks so hard to avoid that the term "the big one" has become commonplace to refer to the almost inevitable multi-car pileups the circuit is known for. Also, entering pit lane is its own skill, which requires practice in order to slow the car up as quickly and safely as possible. Keeping the car clean and in contention is the main goal for much of the event. Then the final few laps, it's a race to the line with any alliances usually dissolving and the driver's urge to win taking over. With it being home to one of the world's most famous races, the Daytona 500, fans from around the globe flock to this landmark circuit. Just like the cars on it, the Daytona International Speedway shows no signs of slowing down.
And Chris, we're set for a fantastic season here, but we couldn't put this on without our fantastic sponsors. Here's a look at this week's track, though. It's 2.5 miles and a lot of banking here at Daytona. And we just saw the track guy talking about the big one. But what would your strategy be here this week, Chris?
Well, this series is filled with a lot of proficient drafters, so what you're going to want to do is maybe try to get off sequence on the pit cycle, work yourself into some good track position, and then try to maintain as much as you can. There is a lot of passing opportunities here at Daytona, obviously, but you have some big dogs on this series that know what they're doing pretty well managing the draft. So it's going to be a challenging game for those coming from the back, but we'll see how this all plays out here in just a little bit.
Yeah, Daytona always provides some fantastic racing, and our races here can't be pulled off without our fantastic sponsors. So we have to give a huge thank you to Zoe's Place. The mission of Zoe's Place Child Advocacy Center is to minimize trauma to child victims of sexual abuse and neglect by providing a centralized, safe, and child-friendly facility from which a multidisciplinary team conducts investigations and intervention activities. Our goals are to reduce trauma, seek justice, and foster hope and healing for children and their non-offending caregivers. Our vision is to foster hope and healing, reduce trauma, and provide nurturance for children and their families. Also like to thank R&R Racewear, your source for all your custom racewear apparel needs and home to iRacing apparel. Check it out today at r-rracewear.com. Also, thanks to Evidence-Based Mommy. Have questions about parenting or non-toxic living? Visit evidencebasedmommy.com, where Dr. Samantha Radford combines science and wellness to help parents and kids thrive. Also have to thank Lucky Finn. Proud to celebrate the Lucky Finn Project, who has created a nationwide support network for parents of kids with limb differences and provide limb difference education awareness. Find more info at luckyfinproject.org. Also have a few other sponsors to give shout-outs to with Loud Pedal TV, as well as 5 Star Graphics that both help provide some sponsorship to this series. And we're getting set here for this race. It's going to be 2.5 miles around the track that we talked about, 31 degrees, but also 100 laps here around Daytona. And it's going to be a long one out there, Chris. So these guys don't have a spare car, but they do have a couple of extra sets of tires as well. You see their 3 attempts at the green-white checkered. I think towards the end of it, Chris, we're going to have to see some guys making some desperate moves, knowing that there might have another shot if the green-white checkered happens.
Well, I can tell you last week in the shootout, Chad, that we had some definitely had some drivers that had to make some sacrifices there in the last couple laps. In fact, our leader going into the final green-white checker ended up running out of gas on the back straightaway. So fuel strategy will definitely play a role here. Last week we only went 60 laps, so we're going 40 more laps, and these guys will have all the more to manage at that point.
Yeah, 100 extra miles compared to last week, and currently there's 30 drivers out on track for practice. It's going to be an interesting one as we get set here. These guys are looking really racy in the pack.
Yeah, they showed that last week as well. We had some drivers that came from fairly deep in the field to kind of slice their way up through there. But this is a series where these drivers have shown, as we saw last week, just tremendous intelligence in the draft. And just having that ability right there can make a huge difference in how this race goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Just remember, there's not going to be any qualifying this week. That was set from last week's shootout race, so no qualifying here tonight. These guys are just getting all of their laps in this this interesting group right here of 4 cars. Really doing their best around here. This is led by, I think that's Cook Quick that's out in front there in the 23.
Yeah, and that's got to be just about the best name in racing, I think.
I don't know. I think that Stingray Rob down in the Indy Lights series gives him a run for his money. I mean, your first name is Stingray?
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
So these 4 doing, just looking great out there. And I love that each car has its own unique paint. It really gives that that throwback vibe to the original IROC series that raced here. And they raced at Indianapolis as well, one of the first non-Indy 500 events to take place over at Indy there. So these guys doing a great job of paying homage to what that series was and what it was all about, especially with these unique color liveries per car.
Yeah, these Xfinity Series Camaros it's a beautiful race car already, and the paint scheme is really sharp, and all the different color variations are really cool. I'm a big fan of the look of these cars.
And you see their cars kind of just shuffling back in line, trying to figure out maybe where the moves that they need to make, how they can do them, how they can pull them off, what's going to happen. It is, of course, a fixed series race, so all these drivers really are on level playing fields, but the setup does kind of make things a little trickier for some of them. If you don't have the setup to your liking, if it's set up just as a general baseline, it might throw things off a little more than usual, but these guys just kind of getting a feel for it, trying to figure out what's going to happen here in traffic. As we just saw, I believe that was Brian Kaiser that jumped to the end of the line there in the green 030 machine. So these guys really just getting racy and trying to feel out what's going to happen once they get into traffic.
Yeah, this warm-up is a really cool opportunity to do that, and I know in a lot of the series I've covered here on GSRC, a warm-up isn't really a thing here. But in this series, it's really cool to have one last shot where drivers can kind of, especially in this sort of situation, go out there and try to make friends and influence others.
Yeah, and that's one thing about this track. You see a couple of guys that just work their way down pit road from that pack as we look here at the 17. Pit road entry is going to be critical for these drivers. I mean, you're going from 210 or so, 200 miles an hour, down to the pit road speed limit of 60, and it really gets harrowing. You want to be as efficient as you can. You don't want to hit 60 until you get right to that timing cone.
That's right, and the braking configuration in these super speedway cars isn't exactly ideal for slowing down like that. These cars want as little drag as possible, so even the braking is pretty light on them, so you really got to get on the pedal to get these slowed down. And if somebody behind you happens to be slowing down at a different rate, it's a great opportunity to get ran over.
Yeah, so when you see green flag pit stops, of course, you want to pit with somebody so you have that drafting help, and that's going to make things so much easier if you have a driver to get down and get out, in and out, and away with some drafting help. You're not going to lose quite as much time as if you were to come down by yourself. But the other thing is, you have to avoid every penalty. You can't get a too fast entering, too fast exiting, or even a blend line violation. You don't want to pull a Kevin LePage. But if you're with the front pack, you might lose a lap. You probably will come just out in front of the leaders here with these cars. So it's going to be interesting to watch the pit strategy play itself out. And I think that definitely when those cautions come, you're going to see a lot of takers, as we mentioned before, though. Only 4 sets of tires as these guys go 3 wide into turn 3.
Yeah, that is a fair point. Only 4 sets of tires. Really, tires aren't as big of an issue at a track like this, but I can tell you as we get a little bit later into the season, we're going to some tracks that like to chew up tires. I think we have Rockingham here in a few weeks, and that 4-tire limit is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now in the sim, the date is May 15th at 4:31, and these guys are really just making the most of the conditions. Partly cloudy, 70-degree skies, track temp under 100 degrees. It's not like we would see even ambient temperatures like that in the real world right now, where things are just heating up. As these guys just are grateful, I feel like, that they are not out there in real-world conditions where the track temperature probably 140, 150, and just shred the tires.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on the complete other end of the country from Daytona, and today it was pushing 90, so I can only imagine what it would be like down there in the real world right now.
Yeah, for sure. These drivers have been getting used to these conditions throughout this hour. Only 3 minutes left in practice. We look at Bill Walker work his way out of turn 2. And the interesting thing for him is he's going to catch the car. He's going to be in the draft of the car in front. But he was working his way for quite a while there, just in his own area, trying to just make as much speed as we continue to work our way through practice here. And kind of have to get used to it. These cars handle very differently in the draft versus when you're on your own, as he now works his way down the pit lane.
Yeah, driving Daytona is a lot different than you would expect if you aren't somebody that's actively in the sim. Uh, from a TV perspective, it looks like you just hold the wheel and go around the track, but you're dealing with all these variable conditions. For one, the track is not as bumpy or not as smooth as it looks. Uh, it will push you around as you're just trying to go down the straightaway, and then you have the effect of the draft, where the car's kind of buffeting in the wake behind the car in front of it, and that wants to spit you around as much as possible as well. And on top of that, if you are able to get a good hold on the draft, you're able to stay in line for a while. Eventually, your oil temperature is just going to shoot up, and you'll have to, or water temperature, excuse me, will shoot up, and you'll have to stick the nose out there and try to gulp some air to cool it down. So there's a lot of variables at this track that a lot of people don't expect.
Yeah, fortunately for these drivers, it's not the old iRacing scan of the track. They actually were able to rescan it. I think it was in 2011 when they did that, and it's much smoother with the repave compared to what the original cars were running back in the 90s when IROC came here in the real world. So definitely going to be fun to watch, and there we see cars continuing. It's just amazing how fast these guys will click off laps, and then you'll see, one car on its own just get swallowed up by a pack. But these drivers really getting their nerves settled in as we look at a couple of drivers, including Dylan Dellinger working his way across the line. Just trying to see what the tandem draft can do. We saw that here at Daytona years ago, and definitely makes fun. What we just saw there, I thought that they were just going to go for a swap draft through the corner, but the car behind dropped off too far, and it looks like they're just going to work their way back down pit road with 20 seconds left here in qualifying. But yeah, Dakota just taking it easy out there, running on his own at this point, and getting set for what's going to be an exciting 100 laps.
Yeah, that's a pretty long distance here at Daytona. So yeah, it's going to be it's definitely going to be a long one, that's for sure. So these drivers will definitely have to worry about endurance as well.
And so we're getting set here for 100 laps of action, 250 miles. That's half the distance, obviously, of the Daytona 500. But as we mentioned before, the starting lineup was set based on last week's results, and that's going to lead to Aaron Smith starting on the pole here today. So here's a look at the starting grid with Aaron Smith on pole and Brian McCann on row number 1. Then Tony Radford and Brandon Leclerc, row 2. Hunter Tate and Nathan Bishop on row 3. Then Nathan Trumbley and Jarrett Widener. Gary Ragland and Donnie Lyons will wrap up row number 5.
Starting just outside of the top 10 is going to be Neil Quick in the 11th spot with Kevin McCann to his outside. Timothy Woodson will be in the 13th spot, followed by Joshua Funkhauser. David E. Brown will be 15th, followed by Stoney Benfield in 16th. Cook Quick will be starting 17th with Douglas Wazaki to his outside. Mike Harper 19th, and then Chris Wally will complete the top 20.
In the 21st position will be the 5-car of Dylan Dellinger, and then James Kaufman to his outside. Then Jason Higginbotham, who is very fast in practice, is going to start on the inside of row 12 with Hunter Clark alongside. Then you got Damon Cox and Brian Reich. Chris Mefford and Bill Walker starts 28th, then Brian Kaufman and Mike Cook in 30th position.
Just outside of our top 30 is going to be Curtis Rogers in the 48 machine starting 31st. Jamie Abrell will be 32nd. Brian Kaiser 33rd. Then Dakota Clark, Ray Radford, and Brandon Mefford will complete the field.
So 36 cars taking to the grid here tonight, and a couple of them did not set times in the practice session, whether that was of their own due diligence or just not getting a clean lap in. They're just getting set here is only one pace lap, and it's going to be a fun 100 laps. Of course, 3 green-white checkers if we need them. But I think between the big one that you have to avoid, pit strategy, and everything that comes along with it, it's Daytona racing, but it's going to be a fantastic start to the season here in the IROC Challenge. We get set for some 100 laps of racing at Daytona International Speedway. We got one on board for you tonight, and that's Brian McCann, as you see him here. they're set to go, and he's going to start in the middle of the pack, and or actually he starts up in second. Sorry, the outside of row number 1, as we're ready to have some fantastic race. The pace car pulls away. Aaron Smith leads the field to green. He's in the green, the Geico restart or start zone, and he pulls away to the inside, and there you see he's clean. And we're just going to probably see drivers settle in here as we get set to dive down to turn number 1.
That's right, Chad. One thing about these cars, they do take probably about a whole lap, maybe even 2 laps to get fully up to speed. So in addition to trying to get themselves sorted out here, starting 2x2, 38 cars deep, they're also going to be trying to push those cars as much as possible to get up to speed. So if you're lucky to have somebody behind you that got maybe a little better start and can give you a shove, that can sometimes get you propelled a little faster. And we see right there on the outside line with McCann there in the 3 car, he's already out to the early advantage and pulling down to the inside line.
Yeah, it was very interesting to watch that start because the inside line got maybe 2 or 3 car length better jump for Smith over McCann. And then once they got out of the corner, you just get so much extra speed off the banking, at least in these early laps, that inside line really loses its benefit. Of course, your shorter racing distance on the inside, but the cars on the outside can get more speed off the hill. So we're going to see a lot of swapping as Aaron Smith, he lost the lead there on the first lap, and now he's going to get it right back by going around McCann, and McCann going to give him the bump.
Well, Brian McCann, his finish last week didn't necessarily show it, but he had a command of the shootout last week. Really was kind of dictating the race for a majority of the event. So keep an eye on the 3 car. He already looked strong last week, and I think he may have learned something as well.
Yeah, and there you see kind of the packs forming up. The inside line has gotten very long. A couple of breaks along the outside line, and really I think for some of these guys, they're just trying to find a slot to fill in there on the bottom.
I got to say that 27 and Nathan Bishop, I think that may be my favorite version of this IROC livery. Kind of reminds me of the old Braun GP car.
I totally see the resemblance that you're going for there. It's got those bright highlighter accents, and it really looks great out there. Of course, rocking all of the series sponsors, including Spartan. Very prominently there going around the fuel inlet. These guys just, I feel like, we're 3 laps in. You see the front 5 rows or so are 2x2, and then a couple gaps on the outside. But I think the inside lane is going to get pretty long as this stint goes on, just because you're trying to kind of feel it out. You're trying to figure out what cars are going to do, who you can race with, who works well with you. Of course, it's not going to be as severe as some of the tandem drafting days that we saw in the Cup Series, but if you're able to find somebody that you can work well with, you just stick with them for 20, 30 laps, you can pick off spots pretty easily.
Yeah, we had a fair share of cautions last week in the shootout, so I would imagine a lot of these drivers that maybe got bit by that a week ago are going to probably be playing it a little bit safer. Not only do you have a longer distance to go, but you want to be there at the end. So I think we're going to see a lot more conservative driving here in the mid portion of the event.
And that's one of the benefits, I think, to having that shootout, is you can kind of figure out what's going to happen, especially with it being a fixed series, fixed setup race, where you know at this point what other cars are going to do. You've gotten your feel under race conditions, what the cars are going to do, how it's going to handle. And the other part of that is you also just have the extra practice in a race condition. You can get 20 of these cars in a practice and just kind of run laps, but I don't think anything can compare to an actual race scenario. Of course, points are on the line this time around, but still, you get that extra bit of practice, and these guys are trying to make the most of it as they get set here to work their way through turns number 3 and 4 on lap number 5.
Now, just to show how strong that draft is, Brian Kaufman set the fastest lap of the race so far, that last lap around. He's currently running 35th. Just to show, if you get hooked up right, how fast you can be. And Kaufman was one of those drivers that was really strong last week and got caught up in a caution out of his own doing. So I would expect him to be a driver that could be a bit of a dark horse here today. Looked very strong last week and is obviously very fast here in the early laps, and he's biding his time back out of the way of trouble.
It looks like there's a couple of drivers that have kind of fallen a little bit behind. Not far behind Kaufman is Ray Radford. The issue for Radford is he's 3/4 of a second behind. If he loses too much more ground as we go on board here, with Brian McCain. You see they're third in line now, as one car at a time just kind of slowly works its way up to the front. They just kind of shuffle in and out, but I think that he's kind of composed, just holding the inside line. The biggest thing with Rex here, as we've talked about the big one a couple of times, when the big one happens, the initial impact is going to send cars to the outside. So if you're on the inside, you can maybe cut down to the apron and just try to find somewhere to get some clean air and get through safely. But these guys really are just doing their best to settle down, and there you see just diving to the inside goes the 27 of Bishop.
Yeah, Nathan Bishop and Jarrett Widener had a bit of a moment there when we were following on board with McCann. It looked like they went for a bump, but didn't quite line up right. So after Bishop kind of recovered things there, I think he and Widener may be broken up for the time being.
Bishop took the inside line as soon as he got clear, and Leclerc said, "I don't like that," because he went powering around the outside and still maintained the lead at the stripe.
Well, Chad, so far on lap number 8, we've been leaning green so far, as you see a big push going down the super stretch there, the 70 of Aaron Smith giving a shove to Nathan Bishop. And of all the drivers out in the field today, I'd say Aaron Smith right now has probably been the biggest power player at the front of the field.
Now watch along the outside here. That's Nathan Bishop that's Leclerc in the 21. He was 3 car lengths back. And now as you get such a big run off the corner, especially with the shove from Jarrett Widener, you just get such a good run off the high side that you're able to get back alongside by the time you get around to the exit of the corner.
Yeah, I'm surprised these two lines are staying as close together as they are. I mean, there's still probably room for a lane in between, but this time a week ago, they were pretty far apart. And now you see Leclerc coming down to hold off the charge from the inside line. Looked like he was going to try to float back up, but the spot wasn't there. Looks like the 88 may have backed off a little bit just to avoid collecting him, but Leclerc's still out in front now, and he's swapped down to the inside.
He takes to the inside as soon as he possibly can. And I think the biggest thing, from a mentality standpoint, there's a wreck back behind. That's David Brown that went around in that green and black car, and a couple other cars get involved. The caution comes out, and I think we're fortunate. I think for where that accident happened, it's fortunate that not more cars were involved.
Yeah, that was looked like to me from the aerial view there, 2 guys going for the same piece of real estate here. We'll keep an eye on towards the middle of the field here. Oh, there it goes. That green and black number 7 almost looked like he may have saved it, but then he comes down and gets collected in it again.
I definitely think that he saved it, but then he had to whoa up so much that the car behind him kind of just forced him back into the spin again, and that's really unfortunate to see happen, because you see him get hooked there, and then he's almost going to save it here, and then just right in front of another car. And unfortunately, that's what's caused the second part of that accident. Multiple cars involved, but I think for the most part of it, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, it's not going to be too severe damage for anybody.
Can you imagine going for a spin like that and saving it only to get ran over again? That's got to be like the highest of highs and lowest of lows. Like right there, he's an all-star. And then boom, 0 to 0 just like that.
Yeah, and he talked about how these brakes were set up, and you can tell from the onboard there was definitely a bit of a lift in trying to give him the space, but you can't slow up that quick, that severely without trying to, it's very difficult to do so, at least without causing damage to your own car.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he was pretty much a passenger at that point. I mean, the wheels hooked up again. He was able to keep driving it, but at that point, he was really just going to land wherever he landed. Unfortunately, it was in probably the worst possible spot, and he got ran over.
That's unfortunate to see something like that cause damage to several cars. You're going to see a bunch of takers here down pit lane. It looks like a couple of leaders did stay out, but just about everybody else is coming down pit road. For David Brown, though, it's unfortunate. He's got a bunch of damage. He's lost the back of the car. There's just absolutely no back deck plate or bumper to the back of that car. So he's going to have to take some repairs because downforce is so important here. Is you want to see as much time, and drivers already now working their way off pit road. These guys at the front of the field, you know, they were just so quick in, so quick out that other cars weren't even to their boxes yet.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be a splash and go at this point, only being on lap 12. They haven't really used too much fuel, not a big tire track, so they're not going to switch those out quite yet. So it's a matter of fueling up and topping her off till the next chance.
Yeah, 10 laps in. I think that getting the fuel, and maybe if you need it towards the end of a run, you can definitely take advantage of it, trying to wait out a caution. And looks like Jarrett Widener is going to inherit the lead from that, as he leads from Leclerc, followed by McCann, your top three. And just 12 laps in, you know, it's the first race of the season. Of course, we had that qualifying race last week, but I mean, what are your thoughts going in? I mean, how much are you already thinking about the championship, do you think?
I mean, it's never too soon to start thinking about it. At this point, you give up points and you're already starting in a hole at the beginning of the season. So a lot of these drivers are just going to want to, start stacking from the beginning. Nobody wants to work from behind, but I mean, you do have a little bit of a grace period with it being earlier in the season. You can recover, but it's got to be in their minds at this point.
Now, an interesting choice here from Aaron Smith. He stayed out the first time around, but now works his way down the pit lane. He was running up in the 5th spot. Maybe it was just strategy to try to go to the back, but he takes his splash and he's back underway. And then stops again? I'm not sure what's going on there with the 70, but lets a couple cars go by and he's back underway. That was an interesting choice. Yeah, maybe he just wanted to move all the way to the back of the field and get himself set back up once again.
Well, not only that, by stopping on that lap and stopping for a minute, that's a little bit longer, that a little bit more fuel that he's going to have in the tank compared to his competitors. You know, all those little bits add up.
Lights are out on the pace cars. They work their way back towards turn 3. And yeah, I think that these guys have a decent feel, especially up at the front. You can kind of figure out when you're going to make your moves and get them done. Yeah, you're trying to kind of at the start of these runs, you're really trying to get a feel for, you know, what you can do, and with so much more racing left to go, these guys really at the front know when they can make their moves and how to kind of defend at this point, especially if you were one of the guys that was running towards the front of the pack the entire time. But pace car pulls away, Widener takes the green flag, and he is underway, leading such a fantastically formed up pack. The first 10 or so rows are all 2x2.
That was a really good restart, but unfortunately, might end up leaving him hanging there. He got a pretty good run on the rest of the field. Looks like Brian McCann already pulled up to his bumper. Hunter Tate in that 8 car, a new name towards the front of the field after that pit stop cycle, and it looks like he's already on the move.
Yeah, definitely a shuffle there with how drivers decided to pit or stay out. And you still got Leclerc Widener up front, and a couple of guys getting pretty racy throughout this pack. You see him kind of trying to just settle into a lane, and you really can't be bumping there like Tate is trying to do through 3 and 4. He's all over that back bumper, but they make it through.
Yeah, a big part of this race is survival, and you get somebody up there that maybe hasn't been towards the front very often, and could spell trouble. Tate right now pretty aggressive compared to how the rest of the front runners are rolling along here, but could add a little spice to the race for the commentator side of it.
It looks like there was a penalty handed down to Chris Wally, so he works his way down the pit lane to serve that. And that's unfortunate to see this early in the race, but fortunately for him, he's still got plenty of time to make it up if he can try to either do it through strategy or something to try to find his lap back and get up on the lead lap once again.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way it worked out, he's all by himself here, so it's going to take some effort to get up to speed at this point, and on top of that, the whole field's all formed up and going to be running him down here shortly.
I guess the only benefit, as you mentioned earlier, is it takes a lap or two for these cars to get up to full bore, but still, you're going to be losing, you're going to be hemorrhaging time to the field as you continue just to work your way around here on your lonesome.
Ooh, your front two cars getting really close there coming off of turn 4. And looks like they're running up on the lapped car of Wally right now.
Yeah, a couple cars that looked like they had issues under that caution with Wally and Abrel. Both had to make their way down pit road. Abrel already one lap down, looking to make it a second now, unfortunately. Mercy all the way up against the wall. Collects another car with him, and that's unfortunate to see. That was the 27, one of your front runners. That was Nathan Bishop that was collected in that. And there was just not much room. There was, I mean, that's unfortunate to see. Let's take a look at the replay from above here. We saw it from the onboard. There was really no room for him to go. Just catch a bump wrong. I don't really know who to lay the blame on there. I guess if I have to say something, it's might be a little more on the 27, just because there was no room to the outside there.
Yeah, I mean, the 51 did everything he could to get out of the way. You know, he can only get so close to the wall. We'll get a really good look at it here. Oh, and the 51 actually scrapes the wall, and then as the looks like there's some blame to go around there.
Yeah, so we'll be like the IndyCar stewards and say no further action on that one, as these guys work their way now down the backstretch. And I think the biggest thing there for Bishop is you just have to hope the damage isn't too severe.
Yeah, Bishop was awfully fast here in the early part of the race, so it'd be a real bummer if he's not able to keep up that pace. But I mean, that was a pretty good hit into the wall, so you got to think there's some right side damage.
Yeah, considerable contact, and the big thing there is you can kind of see you got maybe 15 to 20 cars in this first group, and then everybody else is strung out just a little bit single file. I think there was definitely some panic lifts and maybe some taps of the brakes that kind of broke up this field.
Yeah, the field did a great job avoiding it, though. But yeah, as you can see from our aerial cam, definitely added some gaps here.
And I think the biggest thing is for where that wreck took place in the field, that was only the third row of the lead pack. They were fortunate to get away with that not being bigger than it really was.
Yeah, that that really had no right to be as a minuscule of an incident as it was. I mean, that really had potential to kick off a big one here.
So there you see quick. Now Aaron Smith actually takes it away with the fastest lap of the race. And Smith, we mentioned how much the draft helps. Smith is now started on pole, dropped back 23rd after that first caution and everything, and now sets the fastest lap while still running 23rd, pretty far back in the field.
Yeah, and it was almost like he wanted to kind of show off in the early part of the race and show that he can run up front. Then after proving that to everybody, he's like, I'm just going to hang out back here, keep my nose clean, and we'll see you at the end.
So Widener still maintains the lead as we ride on board with him from Indiana. In my opinion, the best region on iRacing, but he maintains the lead over this field. He seems pretty comfortable in control of it because he's just holding that bottom line and just kind of waiting for the moves to come to him.
I mean, it's pretty close to the best region in iRacing, but I wouldn't say it's quite the best.
Tate and Widener 2x2 up at the front. And Hunter Tate gets this run off the corner. You see him there just to the left side of the screen. And you kind of talked about the bumps of the track. These guys swerving just a little bit. You know, you kind of mentioned it's not the big of a tire track, but do you think that maybe they're feeling a little more squirrely now, 20 laps into a run?
Yeah, especially with the fact that just about nobody took tires that last caution. So the rubber's a little aged. The drivers are probably a little more settled in, a little more comfortable than they would have been at the start. So definitely going to see a little bit more movement here.
So Widener and Tate getting very high. There was Gary Ragland back behind. I thought that something might have gone wrong with his wheel or something because he just swerved almost into the wall. There, we got our first round of pits. A bunch of guys coming down under green. There's about 5 cars now working their way down, including your leader. As we have a new leader now, Hunter Tate's going to take the lead.
Well, a bit unexpected there out of my strategy book, but yeah, green flag pit stops kicking off with some of our front runners.
There's the. Oh, he missed his pit stall as well. That's the 21 of Leclerc. He still can't figure out. He's too far left, too far right. He's got to back up even more. And the worst part for him is he's going to be on his own. He's got to pull forward and then back up once again. He was too close to that inside wall. So that's a critical miss there for the 21, as he's going to be all on his own. Everybody else so seems to have gotten away cleanly.
Yeah, that was like the scene in Austin Powers when he gets the forklift or whatever it is sideways in the hallway.
Yeah, he's just trying to find any bit of space that he can. He works his way now off of pit lane. The unfortunate thing is he's not only is he going to lose a lap because of that mistake, but he's going to lose a considerable amount of time. And if a caution doesn't come out soon, he could lose even more.
Yeah, he's looking at least probably a lap and a half that he's going to go down here.
We'll have to keep an eye on his lap time deltas as he gets back up to speed. But yeah, I mean, these, the lead pack drivers are running lap times and probably about the 47s and 46s, and something we're seeing here. Radford is kind of falling off the back of the pack. We'll take a look and try to figure out what's going on then. Take a look at Radford here. 94, they're on the outside lane. Oh, there was another car that caught the wall, maybe some net code between them. Oh, wow.
That's a tough break for the 94 there. He was another one of those top runners last week. And that's definitely going to put him behind the 8-ball, smashing up the right side of that car like that.
Yeah, there's considerable damage. You can see the rear splitter of that, or spoiler of that car kind of bent up just a little bit. But these guys up front, not letting it impact them at all, as they continue to run 2 by 2 for the first about 5 or 6 rows, and they got a little strung out back behind them single file.
Well, it looks like we've passed the 1/4 mark here. We got 25 laps down so far, Chad, and I gotta say, this looks like it's playing out a lot like a chess match here so far.
I think some of the guys up at the front know what they can do when they can make the moves, and I think that if you're Tate, you're just kind of just saying, I'm going to hold the yellow line. If they get around me, they get around me, because I can make the same move they do to make that pass. And something must have happened to the outside lane. They kind of got shuffled back a little bit. They were 2 cars back in line. Now they're about 4.
Yeah, the outside line really fallen off there. I know we had a couple incidences up there, but didn't think it was enough to peter it down that much. But we could be reaching that point in the race where everyone's like, hey, let's catch our breath here and try to make it to the finish.
Now, I wonder if we can't get a shot of the rear of Brian Kaiser. You see it there, that green and black car on the left, and there's significant damage to the rear of that machine from the first caution that came out. Is that whole rear end is bent up and in, and that cannot be beneficial to the aero.
No, that is pretty well crumpled. And looks like we got a few more people heading off towards the pit lane. Looks like the McCanns are among them.
Kevin and Brian both work their way down. They are followed as well by the 19 of Bill Walker, who pits into his stall. So he's going to be in and out. And have to see what happens with both the 33 and the 3 there of the McCanns.
Well, a pretty good stop there for the 33. Looks like he got a couple tires on there as well. And he's already on his way off pit road. Looks like Brian's going to follow him off here as well. A couple pretty clean pit stops for those guys.
Yeah, slow stop, though, for the 19. He's going to lose a ton of time. Fortunately for him, though, he's going to have Donnie Lyons back behind him. So Walker and Lyons going to at least have somebody to draft with so they can make it work and do the swap draft successfully. They can, try to at least not lose too much time. Is now working our way towards lap 30, closer and closer to the 1/3 distance mark. But as it stands, here comes a decent pack of cars. There you see your leader, Hunter Tate, just in the background. Now taking up most of your screen as this pack is dwindled from what was once 30 cars, now down to about 15.
Yeah, these are the guys that have mostly kept their nose clean and haven't done a green flag pit stop yet.
I think some of them at this point are just praying for that caution to come out, and I think if you're one of the guys that just did come down pit lane, you're praying for the same. But overall, just settling in here, continue to work our way. It's a long race, of course, and you have to wonder what's going to happen the next 70 laps around Daytona.
And that is a big what if. 70 laps at Daytona is a long ways that we still have left here. And looks like we have some jockeying for position here, as we're now 3 wide at the front. And I don't know about you, Chad, but I don't think I'd want to be that guy in the middle.
I wouldn't want to be any of the people involved in a 3 wide this early in a race, because you don't know if you're the one that needs to back out or if somebody's going to do it around you as well. And those kind of miscommunications are what causes some of the bigger incidents. Fortunately, though, this pack has strung itself out even more. I think that if a wreck were to happen within this grouping, it's not going to be as dangerous as it would have been maybe a lap or 2 ago. We'll ride on board here with Brandon Mefford once again. You see there, the 2 cars up in front, those are cars that just worked their way off pit road. If you're either one of them, it's just how do I stay out of the way of everybody else, because these guys are coming at full bore right from behind you.
And that closing rate is insane. Like, you are basically getting past before you even have a chance to realize what's going on.
Yeah, if you're one of those cars that's on your lonesome after coming out of pit road, you really have to feel like the grandma on the interstate in the right lane where everybody else is going 70, and it definitely makes for a white knuckle experience if you're that car getting just freight train by.
Well, at least none of them left their blinker on.
I don't think they have blinkers to leave on in these things.
Well, then it's a little less impressive if they didn't have them on.
Kaufman takes the lead now on the pit cycle as he continues to hold over Trumbley, and they've kind of just trying to do everything they can to settle things out within this pack. The front 2 are clear. And then you've got the 0-1 of Kaufman trying to just hold the inside lane with Cook to the outside there, and still just kind of getting things settled back in. I think that a bunch of those guys that were running 2x2 dove to the inside when they saw the lap traffic, and I think we're going to have to see some pit stops for some of these guys in the next lap or 2.
Yeah, the way this field is kind of strung out on a super speedway, very reminiscent of super speedway racing on Dirt to Daytona.
And I think that the one thing I've noticed that's kind of interesting is if you're one of these slower cars, by the way, that are getting lapped, we've seen it a couple times. It's what caused the first caution, and we've seen it kind of hamper a couple of drivers as well, but just staying out of that outside wall, because it's not easy. It's not like Talladega where there's much more room. You can't go 3 wide easily here, as much room as it feels like there might be.
And if you're the driver getting lapped, it feels kind of like that scene in Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby is trying to get back behind the wheel at the Rockingham track, where you're like, why are they going so fast? Like, you just want to get out of the car and strip off all your clothes and run away from the invisible flame.
Don't you put that juju on me, Ricky Bobby. One-third distance now complete as Kaufman continues to lead from Cook and Trumbley, and it really feels like, after they got past that group of lapped cars, they've kind of settled themselves back out into two lines once again. We're going to have, it sounds like, pit stops here from this group as well. Kaufman announces he's going to be working his way down pit road this time. We'll have to see who's going to come with him, at least the 030 of Kaiser. The 01 comes down of Kaufman as well. Almost some contact there as Kaiser almost got into the back there of the 01 of Kaufman, but they all work their way into their pit box safely. I think that we'll have to see if this car will, 030 of Kaiser is going to take repairs. He does not, but here's a look at the replay. This is the cars working their way down through 3 and 4 on board with Kaiser here. And you'll see the 01 comes from his right, and he's just going to be so late on the brakes, Kaufman is, that he almost gets contact there in the slide and barely gets to speed in time.
Yeah, and that runs the risk also. If you hit that guy hard enough, you can screw up their pit entrance enough to make them get popped for speeding on the pit lane, or at the pit entrance.
Well, it sounds like we're going to see more pit stops from the lead pack, but his front four for the time being, they're going to have to get themselves organized, or sorry, the guys that came down from the front are going to have to get themselves organized, as both Kaufman and Kaiser, and I think that Radford's in there Radford's not in there. He just he's working his way down pit road now. But a lot of these guys are going to have to get themselves sorted back out as the lead back works its way down the back straightaway once again.
Well, right now it's Josh Funkhauser leading the way here, Chad, and I'm really curious to see even more, only 2 takers out of that front group this time. I really thought by this point we'd see a lot more of them coming down.
Yeah, huge lockup there from Funkhauser as he works his way down pit lane with Cook back behind him. These two pitting from the front of the inside lane, and I think that slowly but surely we're just going to have to see one pack at a time working their way down. It sounds like we're going to have more pit stops next time around, as well as Trumbley. No tires there for the 81. He's going to take fuel and go. Trumbley, though, leading the front pack, leading the race right now. He's going to work his way down. We'll have to see how much help he's going to have. We'll have to see as they work their way through turns number 3 and 4.
Kind of surprised with the no tires there on the 81 with how big of a lockup he had coming down into the pit lane. You'd think that those would be pretty flat spotted. As most of the rest of that front pack now heading down pit lane. Ooh, and a little bit of contact there. Looks like the 5 car got into the one right up ahead of him.
Yeah, that's Dellinger that almost got into some contact there, but I don't think that was too significant as they continue on. And here's a look at the replay of that incident. And you see it's the 8 of Hunter Tate to the right. And if there was contact there, it was from the left, and it was very insignificant. It was close, though, and it's like there might have actually, there has been contact there between them. But, no cars got too out of shape, and he's still there. Maybe he got a too fast entering penalty because that was under braking that occurred.
Yeah, it's possible he let off the brake to try to avoid the incident. But yeah, that was a painfully long stop, so I wonder if he was serving out a penalty. He might have missed his box because the pit stop time was not too excessive. I think he just might have had to back up into it and try to get himself realigned. We've seen a couple drivers do that here today, where you're trying so hard to get into the box and get things settled under yourself that continue on as drivers all over the radio just trying to get themselves sorted out and communicate what they're going to do. But Ragland inherits the lead now, and he's kind of just set on just getting himself set him back right back around. But there you see the 51 to the inside. All your leaders have to go to the high side around him. I think he might be a little afraid after last time he went to the high side to go on board with Brian McCann. Yeah, looks like we finally cycled back through. It's Kevin and Brian McCann at the front of the field right now. And you can see a couple more lap cars up in the distance, but right now holding steady out in front of the two McCanns.
Yeah, and this is the part of the race where really things get dicey. You've got yourself settled out pretty well, and you want to do everything you can just to bump draft to try to make up time. You might get a little more aggressive either with your bumps or with your passes. But with only 4 cars in this lead pack, it's going to be interesting to see because there's not really a big group of cars on track at the moment.
Well, this may be fun only for me, but so you have Kevin and Brian McCann first and second, and then Neil and Cook Quick third and fourth. And then you go down a little bit further in the field, and Brian and James Kaufman are in 10th and 11th.
We got to work on some of these guys getting more name partners or siblings or something. And Chris Mefford should be followed by another Mefford. Got to keep the trend going. But right now, Mefford holds 5th behind the 2 sets of McCain's and Quicks, and it's Mefford Trumbly there in 5th and 6th. But your front 4 are really the only 4 in a group. And then you've got there's a caution somewhere on the speedway. That was thrown. That was actually an admin thrown caution as we hit lap number 40. So we're getting set here to see what's going to happen with this caution. Will we see takers on pit lane as we're about halfway through where we completed that pit cycle, but it's really going to bunch everything back up. And some guys maybe towards the back of the field might take some pit stops and fill up on fuel.
Yeah, we would be surprised to see a good chunk of the field top off here.
Yeah, so pace car working his way towards turn number 3, trying to get the field formed back up as they continue just to kind of chill for just a minute. I think that some of these drivers are happy to catch back up because your front 4 of the McCanns and Quicks had about an 8-second lead over just about anybody else.
Yeah, this was probably the most spread out I've seen a super speedway race get. So we work. What is this? Our second caution, I believe, and Kevin McCann holding steady out in front here, kind of getting everybody lined up. And we'll see what happens on pit road here shortly.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think for some of these drivers, there you see your lead their way up quite a bit. Kevin McCann started back in the 12th position up to first. He's up 11. One of your other biggest movers is Cook Quick. It's up 13 spots from where he started. Mefford, though, Chris Mefford, from 27th up to 5th plus 22. The other Mefford in the field of Brandon, he's up from 36 to 9. So a bunch of big movers as we got just about everybody. 1 or 2 exceptions that decide to stay out, but there's a long freight train coming down that pit lane.
Yeah, great opportunity for a couple drivers to pick up some track position and maybe get a little bit off sequence. And you have a good chunk of the drivers that are going to be topping off, and it's just kind of going to be almost like a mid-race reset by the time we get back to green.
There you see the race off pit road. It was McCann beating McCann off of the line. As now it's Brian that inherits the lead from Kevin. So they did swap there. But with that, as we wrap up the cycle of pit stops, we're going to take a quick break here, but be back for the last 60 laps or so here on GSRC.
Spartan Transportation and Spartan Logistic Management is your one source for all your shipping needs. 53-foot dry van shipments, auto transport shipments, full-service in-house brokerage, drop lot facilities, just-in-time deliveries to all auto manufacturers, facilities in St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and Indianapolis, Indiana. Spartan Logistics LLC, proud sponsor of the IROC series, Kyle Steffens UMP Modified and Silver Crown driver, and Gordy Gundaker, World of Outlaws late model. Visit us at spartan-logistics.net or find us on Facebook.
And the lights on the pace car have extinguished. We are getting set to go back green for the final 55 laps here around the Daytona International Speedway. Right now, as it stands, the McCanns are out in front there with Brian on the inside, Kevin to the outside. Yeah, Neil Quick there in row number 2 on the inside. So these guys have been out front for quite some time here. Fortunately, no incidents. They're working their way down pit lane and getting set to go back to green flag racing. And what do we expect to see here, Chris? Is it more of just getting everybody settled down for the last half of the race?
Well, as we come to the green here, we basically got a reset on this one. We had finished the pit cycle. Everybody topped off their fuel on that last caution that we had. So this is really a basically starting over point. It's almost going to be like a whole new race from here forward.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun final 55 laps, sorry. And I think that, you know, from watching that pit cycle, you really, if you're one of the leaders, you have to be praying it's green flag pit stops. If you're anybody else, you just have to think, I hope that I have somebody to pit with, because even when it was a 2 or 3 car grouping that came down pit lane, nobody seemed to want to leave together.
Yeah, there was not much in the way of coordination as far as strategy went on those pit stops. You had a few drivers that ended up coming out in pairs, and it seemed to work out better for them. But yeah, a lot of unplanned pit stop strategy there.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we've kind of seen is just about on every restart, and as the runs have developed, if you're in a long train like this on the outside line, the run that you get off the corner is really going to help you get up to and even possibly make the passes for the lead. But once that lane kind of fizzles out, once it gets down to 4 or 5 cars, when you don't have as much power pushing you on the outside lane, you definitely can't make the moves that you can right off the restart when you've got 20 cars in the line.
That's a very fair point. And in that same vein, you have Leclerc in the 21 that made his way back onto the lead lap. He was a threat earlier on and just had an abysmal pit stop. I guess cataclysmic would probably be a better word for it. But he was able to get back on the lead lap, and Leclerc still in it at this point. He could have a chance as we get later on into this run.
Yeah, unfortunately not related to and not even spelled the same as Charles Leclerc, but I think that'd be a fantastic name to have. Just, you know, make people think that you're related to a Formula One driver, and everybody's going to think you're fast.
Oh yeah, my cousin old Chuck Leclerc.
Man, that'd be quite the name to have out there on the truck. But man, we got the McCann still out front there on the inside and leading the outside with Brian leading the race, and you got Brian and Kevin there, and then Quick on the inside there. And these guys are really, I just hear somebody blow an engine. I thought that I heard something, but maybe just missing some. I thought I heard either contact or a blown engine, but either way, these drivers seem to be continuing to run in the right direction.
That wasn't your can of Coke again, was it?
No, I just kind of spilled that over my desk in the break, but that's neither here nor there. It's still getting closer and closer to halfway through this race. Of course, 3 attempts at the green-white checkered.
I tell you what, those green-white checkers were a difference maker last week. Definitely ruined the fuel strategy. If I think we had 2 of them, and on that second one, unfortunately, the fuel plan did not quite work out for one driver. He ended up losing the lead on the back straightaway of the final lap.
And as we work our way down the back straightaway here, I wonder if we can't get the onboard with Brian McCann once again, because you'll see him going into the corner. We'll see just every single bump, how it impacts the steering. Because you see, he's trying to make it as smooth as he can, but as he waits for the bumps, you'll see kind of jolts and jostles in the wheel as he just gets pushed along by Neil Quick as they work their way now onto lap 50, and just, you know, it's not a perfectly smooth piece of asphalt. It definitely is more similar to, say, I-465 around Indianapolis, where you're going to have bumps everywhere, even in the gentle curves.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there on the onboard just several just small little corrections in the wheel to keep it pointing straight. And that's super speedway racing for you. Even on a relatively smooth track like this one, you just got to constantly keep putting input in there to keep it straight.
Yeah, and you'll see him dropping one hand at a time off the wheel, just kind of trying to give himself a break, make sure he's relaxed and focused, and his hands are in good condition as his race wears on. Because that's one of the things, you know, this is a half distance of what the Daytona 500 is, and as you get towards the end of those races as well, you know, you definitely start to feel it. You know, whether it's the palms are sweaty or the knees weak, but you know, as your hands and your arms kind of get a little more tired, you need to find any way to get a break and get that relief from them, and just kind of give them a second to relax as they now work their way down the back straightaway. Once again, you kind of just want to get them, you know, give your hands, give your arms a break, and at times you might find yourself being tempted to do it with your feet. You know, maybe switch over to left foot for the throttle for a little bit because you're so flat out around here, and that's where things get dangerous, just because, you know, the slightest slip when you're changing feet or something, it definitely makes it more difficult, just trying to give your legs a little bit of a break.
That's where the big debate on what kind of footwear you have while iRacing comes up. What is your go-to, Chad? Are you bare feet, socks, shoes, slippers?
Socks every day. I mean, it's, you know, I've tried it with shoes. I've borrowed a friend's pair of racing shoes, which maybe were a size too big, but I definitely didn't feel any advantage to wearing those. Barefoot, I've done barefoot, but, you know, just with my cheap, crappy wheels, my feet just end up getting cut off on the edges of the pedals. But what about you?
I'm a slippers guy. That's just how I roll.
Now, are we talking like full on like moccasin slippers, or like what are we rocking?
Oh
here?
yeah, it's got to be the moccasin, kind of fuzzy on the inside. That way, I always feel like if I'm wearing socks, I'm gonna like push myself across the room or something.
I remember during 2020 when IndyCar went virtual, Connor Daly was running basically on a wheel and at his desk in his parents' house, and he said that he had to have his pedals braced up against a shoebox to make sure that they stayed stationary and they heated as well, as he used a chair from the kitchen. So definitely a wide variety of skill levels. Some of these guys probably have, you know, multi-$1,000 racing setups to make sure their pedals don't move.
That's one of the beautiful things about iRacing. You have everything from a guy that's sitting in a kitchen chair to people that have like full-blown racing seats that are mounted up, and a lot of them will do just as good as the next one. So it's kind of like in the real world, you know. You have one guy that shows up pulling his car on an open trailer, and one guy that has a double stacker semi. You know, sometimes equipment doesn't necessarily win races.
I can't remember if it's I think it might be Blake Reynolds there in the Coke Series, but he shows up and, you know, races competitively every week in and week out, and I think that he's only on like a Logitech series wheel, which is kind of considered one of the more entry-level force feedback wheels. I can't remember if it's Blake or not, but I know a couple of the Coke Series drivers do use those to you know, various levels of success. But even just to make that series, you really find your way to the top of the chart with even, you know, whether it's the top of the line, you know, $1,000 wheels or the $200 Best Buy wheel.
Yeah, you know, speaking of that, you have up in that top line here, you have a couple drivers that are fading at the moment. Looks like kind of what you mentioned earlier on in the race, that outside line not as well formed up anymore. You have a couple breaks in the field, and now they're falling further and further back.
And you see there that the McCanns, they really formed themselves up nicely now that Kevin and Brian have got linked up. And something that you'll see now is that the outside lane is now having to work past the fourth place car compared to what it was the second place car before. before Brian worked his way down to the inside lane. And actually, you'll see it there. I think that's the double zero there of Cook on the outside. Down the back straightaway, you see him trying to use any bit of slipstream that he can off of that lap car. Tucking out of line, just trying to make sure he doesn't lose too much time or too much speed. As now he's still alongside Cook Quick there. Yeah, that's fourth in line on the inside.
Well, that lapped car just ping-ponged off the wall, and yeah, kind of stacked things up.
And there's a big wreck there back behind. I believe no caution actually on that one. I'm surprised to see it because that car there was banging all the way. There is the caution. The caution did come out a little bit late, but there it is. 27 was down in the tri-oval. You know, he actually got clipped from somebody else. I'm not sure who that was.
Yeah, it started with whoever that lapped car was. I believe it was that Dellinger in the 5. I'm not sure. It was one of the red and white cars that started it.
Yeah, so there's the 5 with significant damage. It might have been Dellinger. He was on the lead lap though.
Yep, there it is.
He got clipped.
Yeah, the lap car started ping-ponging off the outside wall, trying to give the lead lap drivers a run, and unfortunately ended up crossing ways with oncoming traffic there.
Yeah, so here's a look at the 5 once again from well above, and you'll see. Oh, was that the 73 or 80, 79 maybe? Yeah, the 79 of Donnie Lyons is who that was. Yeah, that was Donnie Lyons there in the 79. He was 2 laps down, just lost his second lap, and unfortunately, yeah, just hit the wall and unfortunately bounced back into the fray.
Yeah, really tough break because he was trying to do the right thing and give the lead lap cars some room, but unfortunately got into the wall and collected those in front of him. And wow, that
Nathan Bishop almost made it through that as well. You saw the wreck to his outside, dove to the apron, and unfortunately, there was significant enough contact there as he's now crabbing his way down around the track. But that's unfortunate. Just over halfway, working lap 58, and the caution comes out for the third time tonight.
Yeah, Nathan Bishop was really fast in the early part of the race too, so that's just a heartbreaker that he's been caught in 2 different crashes now, neither of which were of his own doing.
Yeah, these guys don't have a backup car, no fast repair for them if they needed it, but they're going to take as many repairs as they can and try to get the sheet metal straightened back out. A lot of takers down pit road once again. I don't think that we'll see many taking tires. A lot of these guys just came in pit lane, and looks like we've got a complaint here over the radio from Quick, and maybe some contact that he was involved in there. We'll have to take a look at the replay. Yeah, there was definitely some contact there between Quick as he left his pit box with himself, and I think that's it was Quick and Leclerc in the 21. It was just after he left his pit box. We'll see if we can't get the replay of it. Yeah, so here it is. You'll see the car coming in from the right. They're side by side as he exits. Leclerc trying to get in, and he just gets absolutely doored back into the inside.
Well, Uncle Chuck's not going to be happy about that.
So we'll have to see if he comes down for repairs. And the biggest thing was that he is just not happy that there was that contact there for Cook Quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the nature of the beast there. You have your eye on the prize, and you lose that spatial awareness sometimes.
Now, maybe I'm misremembering. I thought that you weren't supposed to be all the way over to the right side of the pit lane unless you were exiting your boxes. That's considered the fast lane. Now, do you think that maybe Leclerc could have been further over to the left to maybe try to avoid that incident from even occurring in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I don't know. The 23 back into the pit lane, though, I don't know, maybe wanted to get some of the damage fixed. Oh, changing tires at the very least.
Yeah, it's a great side. At least I think that he's gonna just try to get some more hammers on. He's got another lap around to try, as the field now is in 1 and 2, so he's got some time where he can get himself, get some repairs done and get back up to the field in time to have a decent run here on the restart. And Quick has now worked his way out of his pit box, so he's going to have a little bit of time here to catch back up as the field's still behind the safety car with the lights extinguished for the time. So they're going green this time around. Just have to hope for Quick's sake that there is not significant damage, and he was able to get most of it beaten back out of the sheet metal.
Well, looks like the field for the most part pretty well formed up. And like you mentioned, the lights are off, so we gotta close it in on that 2/3 mark now, Chad.
Yeah, closer and closer we come. The pace car set to pull away. Quick doing everything he can to try to avoid a black flag, as there was a car even slower there to the inside as gets set back going. There's some confusion at the back of the field as to whether who should be where. But the green flag back out once again. The outside line does not get a great jump. Front 5, all single file here as they work their way diving into turn 1.
Yeah, that front group got a really big advantage on the start, and they're staying pretty well formed up, so this could end up working out.
So it's the McCann still up front, 1-2, nose to tail. Get Neil Quick and Hunter Clark there, kind of just leading. The freight train is just pulling along on the inside. The outside did not get any sort of a run. Looks like I got a couple of drivers there that have been black flagged of some sort. Quick is one of them, as he, I think, was passing under yellow for a car that was just not up to speed there on the restart. Some big swerves there from Higginbotham. He continues to keep things keeps out of the wall, but now he's just going to maybe try to dive to the inside as he's right on board with him. He wants to get to the bottom. Can he do it? Yes, he finally can. As he is now stuck behind James Kaufman, who's in the outside line. Sounds like there might have been some contact there for the 41 of Kaufman into the outside wall as well. Have to see how much that's going to impact his car.
This whole little sequence after this restart has been really funky compared to the rest of the race. I mean, this field got strung out really quick, which is just not something you see too often in this kind of racing.
Yeah, and these guys, most of them just made a pit stop, for at least for fuel, if not more. And with that, you've got plenty of time to get yourselves kind of just settled in. You know that nobody's going to have to pit for quite some time, so might as well just kind of log laps and ride around and at least try to make sure you don't get caught up in the big one if it does happen in front of you.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Having that kind of space isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, my personal perspective, at least for the first, 60 or 70 laps of this race, would be at least maintain touch with the draft. You don't need to be in the pack or right on the pack, but as long as you're within about a half to 3/4 of a second of the car in front of you, you're at least in a position where if the wreck happens, you can get away from it, but you're also not going to lose too much time before you have to work your way up through the field.
Yeah, definitely we got an incident there.
Multiple cars involved, 3, 4, 5 of them. Kaufman's involved as well, and that's going to bring out the caution once again. So we'll have to see where this started. I know Brian Kaiser was one of the first cars that was involved in the 030. He's going to be one of the bright green cars that's up in the front, the black and bright green car there. And there you see 3 wide through the middle of 3 and 4. That's going to force the 96 into the wall. And then Brown reacts in the 7. And the 71 goes up on top. So there you see everybody just piling into the outside and everybody back behind just praying they don't get involved in it.
Well, that's definitely a bummer. There's some fast cars that got caught up in that one.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me on that is the 030 of Kaiser, one of the cars that was involved to start that whole melee. He already had significant damage from an earlier incident, so I'm not sure if maybe he was just getting too aggressive with his damaged car or what happened with that, but man, that's just a violent crash out of nowhere.
Yeah, that 71 really got tossed.
Yeah, that 71 is Gary Ragland that went up and over the top of 2 or 3 cars, and have to see what's going to happen here as drivers just continue to try to figure out what in the heck is happening. Here's a ride on board with Ragland. He went for the ride. He was the one that went up and over the top. You see 2 cars there. The 7 checks up, and unfortunately, once the 7 kind of comes down to try to avoid the wreck, he gets up on top of another car, and that's the significant wreck there. You see a little bit of a steering angle change there as we saw the onboard. He gets the back end of it beat out a little bit, but he's going to get back underway, try not to lose too much ground to try to catch back up to the field under caution. Quick, the 23 is going to be your lucky dog. Trying to work his way back from that black flag. So he's going to work his way around. And I think it's a benefit for him that they have the lucky dog here in the series, because it's just unfortunate circumstances where he lost his lap, which was getting a black flag, exiting, trying to catch back up to the field under the last caution. So quick. Gets the lucky dog back to the end of the lead lap. He's currently sitting in the 28th position.
Yeah, I got to say I'm a proponent of that lucky dog thing as well. I think it'll be nice to add another car back onto the lead lap and thicken the competition here a little bit.
Yeah, and we know that he has a fast race car. It is a fixed setup series. But he has just found a way to make it work, and he's been making moves to get up to the front. He's just got to do a lot of work to catch back up to. So I'm not sure. I'm not confirmed that it's his brother, but the other quick in the field, Neil, is looking pretty quick as he sits in the 3rd spot.
Which is weird, because if I kneel too quick, I hurt my knee.
Well, that's what happens when you get old. I don't ever want to get that old. One of these days, I'm going to end up like our producer Joe, and not even be able to walk up the grandstands at IMS without hearing the creaks in your knees.
In all fairness to Joe, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah, those double letter rows are pretty high, so I totally understand.
Well, Chad, before you get kicked off the air, we've passed that 2/3 mark now. We're working lap 67. And the McCanns have just been holding station up in front at this point.
Yeah, they just seem to have something between the two. There's just a chemistry there that they can hold off any attacks from the outside, whether the field is built up or it's broken down a little bit. They just know how each other's going to race and know when to bump. There's something in between them that there's that communication that a lot of other drivers don't seem to have.
Well, I know last week Brian showed that he knows how to command one of these super speedway races, and looks like Kevin just as proficient in this kind of art, because he's also doing a pretty good job up towards the front of this one.
And so these drivers getting set to go back to green flag racing once again, just waiting for a couple of drivers to get caught back up. As there you see the starter stand, green flag in the air, and back underway once again here for the last 33 laps of IROC action from Daytona.
Well, the McCanns get right back in line. Oh, and of course, as I say that, Brian now jumps to the outside.
Yeah, that was an interesting move. He wanted to sit behind it, and he had too much of a run. Didn't want to have to check up, but also didn't want to shove the other to the outside wall. So, guys, getting formed back up 2 by 2 by 2 all the way back the first about 10 or so rows. Now, some of these drivers further back in the field are all getting themselves set up. Maybe some of them are praying for a last lap or a late caution, excuse me, and trying to get themselves in a scenario where they can survive that big one. But I think at a certain point you have to say there's a point of no return. If you're far enough back, I think you're already at that point where you just have to go. You have to try to make moves and get yourself back up to the front. One of the drivers that's doing that we were talking about just got the lucky dog, and that is Cook Quick, who is just trying to force his way through. He's currently sitting back on the inside line, but he's trying to make the most of the draft. There, you see him all on his lonesome for a moment, but he's right there. He was making some moves down the back straightaway, and here he comes, trying to slice his way back through the field once again.
How about Aaron Smith up there in the second spot? We were very confused with his pit strategy early on in this one. And obviously it was working out for him. He's sitting in the second spot right now.
Yeah, he pit off sequence maybe by about 4 or 5 laps from everybody else, but he gives a big shove there to Neil Quick, and those front 2 rows are clear of Kevin McCann there in the 33. And the McCanns are forming back up once again, but this time they're on the outside. What can they do?
Well, this is almost starting to mirror what happened to Brian a week ago. He led the majority of the race, and then in the closing stages, he ended up getting shuffled back quite a bit, which seemed really strange to me because he did such a great job holding on at the front. But, you know, sometimes when you get mired back in traffic, when you've been at the front for so long, you kind of lose the feel for it. Like the car doesn't behave the same in traffic as it does in clean air.
And I just mentioned that the front 2 were clear. By the time they got to the middle of turns 3 and 4, they were back alongside your leaders of Quick and Smith, and they're just chugging along there on the outside. They found something between the 2 that made them work, and they've got a shove there from behind from, I believe that's Mike Cook that's behind them as well.
Yeah, Mike, another new-ish player up towards the front here as we ride along with Brian McCann there. Look at the focus as he watches up in front of him. You can see taking a peek down towards the mirror there real quick, and then right back on what's in front of him.
Now, the thing for me is, you know, I love the drivers give us these onboard cams, but I'd be too afraid of me making too many stupid faces while I'm just trying to focus in. You know, maybe get the tongue sticking out or leaning over to one side trying to fight my way through a gap. But we're about to see these front 2 cars get clear and might see the McCanns dive back to the inside once again.
So usually in my case, I end up having a cat sitting on me while I'm trying to drive.
I've seen everything from cats jumping up in laps to dogs, you know, that think they're lap dogs and they're really not, messing up a driver's race. So definitely a fun one. My favorite, I think, that I've seen was there was somebody on, I believe it was the IndyCar or the iRacing subreddit that said their cat actually jumped on their PC tower. And there's a big wreck behind. That's the big one if we've ever seen it, as there's several cars involved slamming hard to the outside wall. Have to go back and see what caused this one, but there were several cars that just slammed and turned straight right. They'll be looking about maybe halfway back through the pack here, and there you see the initial contact. Was that the 11? Yes, it was. Yeah, so that's the 4 of Harper that goes hard to the outside wall. He was alongside. Was that the 11 that he was alongside? Yeah, that was Brian Reich there in the 11. So they're the ones that started that, but just about everybody else had to pile in behind them.
Yeah.
Here's Douglas Wasowski, or sorry, Wasowski. Oh, he almost made it through and then just got clipped by the car on the inside. And unfortunately, you can see there the hood bent up just enough. That's going to cause some aerodynamic issues. I was mistaken. There is one fast repair for these guys. They do have one spare car if they need it. I'm not sure if Wasowski has used his yet. So have to wait and see. So Aaron Smith, it looks like, was the benefactor there as he somehow got the lead. They were talking over the radio whether or not he actually was the one that was leading when the caution came out. But, you know, somehow Aaron maintains the lead. We'll have to see who works their way down pit lane. As looks like just about everybody. You are good to the end on fuel here. Most of these guys probably do have tires remaining at this point, so I would expect at least 2 right sides. If not, you take all 4. It'd be a huge call, probably from somebody in the back if they want to at least attempt to just go with a top up on fuel and go back underway.
Yeah, looks like quite a few takers for some tires. At this point, I'd imagine being this close to the end of the race, you're going to want to do everything you can to be in the best position possible.
Smith in his pit box for only 8 seconds, and he's going to maintain his position at the front of the field. He is leading from Quick. There's actually, it looks like a couple other drivers have leapfrogged their way through here. So it's Smith, from Clark, from Quick, from McCann, your top 4. And with that, with only 25 laps to go, we're set for a fantastic shootout to the finish. But until then, we'll take a short break and be right back with the final quarter of the race here from Daytona in the IROC Challenge.
Spartan Transportation and Spartan Logistic Management is your one source for all your shipping needs. 53-foot dry van shipments, auto transport shipments, full-service in-house brokerage, drop lot facilities, just-in-time deliveries to all auto manufacturers, facilities in St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and Indianapolis, Indiana. Spartan Logistics LLC, proud sponsor of the IROC Series, Kyle Steffens UMP Modified and Silver Crown driver, and Gordy Gundaker, World of Outlaws late model. Visit us at spartan-logistics.net or find us on Facebook.
And back to go green this time around from Daytona International Speedway as Aaron Smith leads the field there in the 70 on the inside line. And the one thing you'll notice, though, is the 2 McCanns linked back up once again, this time 2nd and 3rd in the outside lane as they get set, trying to push their way back to the front. Hunter Clark is the car on the outside that's kind of blocking their path to success there. But the base car pulls off. Pit stops are successful for just about everybody throughout the field. A bit of wheel spin there from Clark in the 54. Not a great jump from him as he's going to get eaten up. And now the 3 of McCann dives to the inside line.
And we have somebody that's actually split up the McCann crew here. They've lost touch with each other for the first time in quite a while.
Yeah, and for a comfort thing, I think that knowing who you're drafting with, who's giving you that shove, is really beneficial. I think the biggest thing right now is if you're Brian McCann, you can probably jump to the outside here as you go into 3 and tuck back in line behind Brian. There is the gap there, but it's going to close up quickly if he doesn't take it. He elects to stay to the inside, and it's still Aaron Smith out in front, getting a huge push there from Neil Quick as they go downtown towards the tri-oval.
It's got to be tough at this point in the race when you lose your emotional support drafting partner.
And so still Smith and Quick with Clark to the outside. And you kind of see maybe 7 or so rows back. There's a huge gap on the outside. And that might just be enough to keep the outside competitive. If it was any smaller, it might not be. But there you see some big weaves, especially down to the inside. Guys jumping in and out of line. And just trying to form up into a pack and get cohesive, try to get something going on the outside. If you're Aaron Smith, though, you kind of have to be enjoying seeing all that bobbing and weaving, because that's going to break up the momentum to the outside and not help their cause. You try to hold the lead, but here's a huge run there from Hunter Clark. He's about to get alongside. Can he get there? He's definitely at least got his quarter panel in there, but he can't do much more than that.
But still, Hunter Clark peaking at the right time. We're on lap 79. This is really the first opportunity we've had to talk about him. But yeah, looks like that outside line just having a little trouble staying organized.
And I'm not sure if there was some contact there between Clark and Quick, and that was very, very close as they were getting set to dive down into turn number 1. But here comes Clark again to the outside. And I don't know if you can get an onboard from McCann, but you can definitely see some rear end damage to the back of the 54 of Hunter Clark. He's definitely got a significant bump at some point to where that rear tailgate is definitely bent in. That rear bumper is definitely pushed up.
Yeah, and that's I'll stick that spoiler up in the air, so not sure how that's going to affect things, but wow, they are giving each other no room at this point. This is yeah, I think our director said it best here. This is definitely getting spicy.
Yeah, Clark and Quick, they're both the last 2 laps around, as they exit the tri-oval and approach turn 1, they have gotten very close to making door-to-door contact. I thought they might have last time around, but you'll just see the run that they get here on the outside. That's going to put them in a perfect position to try something. Just can't get anything done there from Clark on the outside. And what I've noticed is that you haven't seen any big bumps there from McCann, from Kevin McCann. He does not want to bump draft him quite yet.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of it. It's really going to come down to timing here in these closing laps. You really have to time things out absolutely perfect. Otherwise, you face a chance of being pretty vulnerable.
Smith still sitting pretty on the inside there of row in the lead, and he's doing everything he can just to make sure he hits his marks, he holds his line. No, it's not the most technically proficient track. It's more of just, if you're in the lead, all you can do is hold on to it, and there's a big wiggle there in the middle from Clark, and that's going to get turned around. Multiple cars involved. McCann gets a pretty big chunk of it as well, but Clark was one of the guys that started that quick. That was just starting on row number 2. Guys very angry over the radio. Let's take a look here at the replay. That was significant contact. There's a huge shove there from Quick to Smith. And then we'll see the big wiggle here. They're coming up the track. Yeah, the 2 just lost the bottom. And I think that I have to put a fair chunk of that on Quick, just because of how much room that he gave up to the inside to the yellow line.
Yeah, I don't know if he touched the apron or what, but he just kind of lost his grip on it there, and it went away from him.
Yeah, so you'll see the 70 all the way against the yellow line. The 2 kind of drops his left sides there, but then shoots up to about a full car width high, makes contact then with the 54 of Hunter Clark, and then just wiggles back up once again, gets turned, and significant damage there to the 33, the 54. I think a lot of these guys just were thankful that the Red Sea parted like it did, as it just why it opened up right through the middle of the pack.
Yeah, you got a feel for the 54 there, though. I mean, he was definitely biding his time to get to the front. Had done a really good job of surviving any chaos to get up there, and then unfortunately, once he gets to the front of the field, gets caught in it.
Let's watch this ride from Sonny Benfield. Has a gap, and then all of a sudden the car comes off the wall. He gets significant nose contact. I almost thought he was going to make it through clean, but that door just slammed shut on him. As we see a bunch of cars now working their way down pit road, either for damage repair or maybe for tires. But I'm kind of surprised that some of these guys did decide to pit. It looks like Smith actually came down pit road.
Yeah, looks like a few drivers electing to stay out there. And
I'm kind of surprised by that, because a lot of the guys, they only had 9 laps on that run. I thought they were good on fuel to the end, but just about everybody, the only ones that stayed out, I believe, were Cook Quick, and Ray Radford, the only guys that actually decided to stay out. Everybody else came down pit lane.
Well, this is definitely setting up the closing stages of this race, and you got to think we have 3 opportunities at a green-white checker too, so you don't know exactly when you're going to have a chance to top off again.
Yeah, we had 2 cautions the first 50 laps, and I think this is our 3rd of the second half of the race, so these guys are really getting a little more racy here, and you kind of just have to think at this point, as much of it is mentality as it is just some of these guys trying to do their best to, you got some guys just trying to keep their cool, and a bunch of other guys just trying to keep their focus at this point, because these longer races, this is 100 laps, this is 250 miles, it really kind of grinds on you towards the end of this race.
Yeah, I mean, any 250-mile race is definitely gonna grind on you a little bit. You do almost have to wonder at this stage in the race who may be falling victim to some driver fatigue.
And by the way, Cook Quick now up into the 2nd position. He was a lap down. He got the lucky dog either the last caution or 2 cautions ago, but he has worked his way up through the field very quick, if you might say.
Ha.
Sorry, I had to. I couldn't find a better word for it.
I mean, sometimes these puns end up creating themselves.
I can't understand you.
That one might have been a little bit of a reach.
That was a Higginbottom of the barrel pun right there, if you ask me.
Well, you better be careful, or you're going to end up in a bit of a funkhauser.
How many puns can we make out of drivers' names in this race before we get to the end of it? As we're right on board with Joshua Funkhauser. Coming to the green flag, coming to 15 laps to go here from Daytona International Speedway. First race of the season. First race where points are on the line, at least. Last week's race, of course, set the position starting grid for today's race, but not a great jump there from the 23. He's going to lose 1, 2, 3 positions. You get swallowed up here on the outside. Just no dealing with it. There's some significant smoking contact back behind, and that outside line is just shattered and falling to pieces.
Well, that may be the reason why Jarrett Widener, unfortunately, going wide into the outside wall.
Significant contact there. I don't see any smoke coming out of the back, so I'm not sure that it's a blown engine. We'll have to listen in here and see if there was maybe he missed a shift or something, but he's just cruising along, and it blew as he was going into turn one on the restart. I don't know if he missed a shift or what happened there, but man, that's unfortunate to see.
Yeah, especially this late in the run. That's a heartbreaker for the 88 machine.
So Brian McCann has found his way back to the point on the inside line. Kevin McCann on the outside of row number 2 in the 4th spot. They were teamed up for so long and were so successful together. Now they have to try to find a way to get linked up once again. But right now, it's still McCann and Smith on leading their respective lines, and both of them, both the inside and the outside, are about 8 cars deep. So they continue just to work their way around and try to get closer and closer to the end of this race. Kevin McCann, of course, we saw him leading earlier on in the event. Smith, probably going to get clear. He's got the opportunity here to take to the bottom. Does he do it? Not quite yet. I think that he likes the drive that he has behind him, as this is a huge run there from the outside lane.
Aaron Smith trying to exert his control here as we're closing in on 10 to go here, just a few laps. But McCann sticking right with him there. He is right to the back bumper of the 7.
Yep, now that Kevin leads the outside lane, will Brian jump up to join the 3 and the 33 together? The two McCanns trying to work together once again like they have the entire race. He does not elect to do it yet. I think they might just prefer the inside with the 2 of them pushing. There you see it. Yeah, it took him long enough to do it, but as they go into turn number 1, he's going to be to the outside. He's got the run and is alongside. Question is, how quickly does he dive back down to the bottom? He's going to get a fantastic shove off the corner here, as Kevin is just right there to give him the bump.
Yeah, and these two have been working together very well all race long. It's given Kevin
almost contact there. There might have been contact there between McCann and Smith as they went into turn number 3, and Smith is just all over the back. There's a huge loss of pace there for Kevin McCann, so he's lost considerable ground on the outside. That's going to send Smith back to the outside of of the front of the pack, and yeah, these guys definitely getting very racy there with some contact.
Well, we're closing in on that magic lap 100 when the points are paid out, and the closer we get to there, the more the intensity is going to rise, and these guys are going to stop being nice and start getting real.
Yeah, Smith getting a huge shove along the outside lane. He continues just to log these laps, still side by side up at the front, and still this pack is formed up very nicely now. We saw a couple of the restarts that it kind of broke apart, but there you see 2x2 just about the entire way through the grouping, and that's going to lead to some very interesting racing as we get closer and closer to the end of this race.
Those top 2 just still trading that position back and forth, and what's weird is they've kind of flip-flopped partners there. It's McCann pushing Smith, and Higginbotham pushing McCann. So it's a weird one.
Laps car now goes to the high side once again. We've seen this cause issues before. Almost some contact there. A couple of guys having to weave just a little bit. They're coming up on another laps car up in front of them, and you can't catch laps cars in a worse spot than just the middle of the corner. They get this one through the tri-oval as he's missing his entire front clip. But these guys are really having to do some bobbing and weaving here, as now Smith is going to dive to the inside. He lost, he won that one big time as he got a huge shove from the 33, and now Kevin McCann is just all on his lonesome out in front. He's going to have to try to find some help. Does Brian peek to the outside? He does not yet. Higginbotham's got the opportunity for now. Well, here comes a huge shove for the 33 from Harper. He's going to at least get by Higginbotham here. Just waiting and seeing how this race develops now. Inside of 10 laps to go. Coming to lap 92. And it's still Aaron Smith with 2 McCanns and Higginbotham. These guys have been up in front the entire race.
Now maybe this is just the way my brain works here, Chad, but I always imagine when somebody's getting lapped on a super speedway, they're just white-knuckling the wheel and screaming at the top of their lungs.
I mean, that makes complete sense to me. I'm right there on board with you. And something has happened at this outside lane because now they've lost considerable ground. It just seems like McCann cannot hit a solid bump there from Harper. This outside lane just has kind of broken itself up. They've lost 2 or 3 car lengths to the inside.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to see at this point. You'd think being this late in the event, that outside line would be well formed and organized, but yeah, you're right, they're losing ground fast.
And the unfortunate thing there, I think, there's a huge shove from Harper. There we go. That's what we were looking for. He gets that front two just side by side once again. I was about to say, if you're Brian McCann there on the inside, you might think about jumping up in front of the 33 and trying to get the bump, break up the inside a little bit. The outside has that momentum and does not take it there, but they're still side by side coming up to a lap car once again.
The only other thing there to wonder, you want to make that last move at a point where nobody can get back at you. You got to time it out just right. And the 3-car moves up high. Smith not able to really make it stick to hold him off. So now Aaron Smith is going to have his hands full here with Brian McCann as we come to 6 to go.
Yeah, McCann, and Smith are the top 3, and this outside lane trying to do everything you can. I think that if you're Brian, you can't dive back to the inside until you know you've got enough room for Kevin to work his way in behind you as well. Have to wait and see as we get closer and closer to the end of this race. You're almost there to get the front 2 clear, cannot do it, and Brian's going to stick to the outside for now.
Boy, Higginbotham in that 44 is no slouch when it comes to those pushes. He absolutely sent the 70 down the back straightaway.
I'll say there's bump drafting and then there's slam drafting, and that's what that felt like right there. Because they were almost had the front 2 cars on the outside clear, and now they're back even once again. The outside has that extra momentum from running down the hill, but for now it's still going to be the 70 of Aaron Smith leading that inside line.
And Smith and McCann, I'd say, have probably been the 2 drivers over the last 2-week period that have really kind of exerted their will over the field more so than anyone else. And it'll be great to see which one of these guys can get to the line first. And, with 5 laps left as we get back to the line, it very well could be somebody that's not either of these 2, as we see another change up in front. Now Higginbotham moves to the front of the field.
Yeah, Smith didn't like what that inside line was doing, so he jumped up to the outside, and now he is leading the 2 McCanns there on the outside lane. They are formed up very nicely. Maybe some big pushes here coming from the outside, as they're all right nose to tail, the front 3, if not front 4 there on the outside, where meanwhile there's a little bit of a gap there from the 44 back to the 81. But right now, if I'm Aaron Smith, I'm diving back to the inside, and that's exactly what he does. You realize, you can't complete the pass on the outside, but you can get close to doing so. So he jumps back the second that he gets the opportunity. And now it's Smith and Higginbotham on the inside with the 2 McCanns back to the outside once again. Now, we've seen them interact with lapped cars before, and lapped cars just going high. This time, though, there's a cluster. There's about 4 lapped cars up in front of them, and they need to figure something out here. Get single file, get to the top, or get to the apron, just do something, because this pack of lapped cars is not going to be easy for the leaders.
Yeah, I literally don't know if there could be any worse of a time for lapped cars to be getting ran down by the leaders. And looks like most of them heading to the apron, so that should keep things pretty clear here. But gosh, even through all that outside line still losing ground, as we have another cluster of 3 lap cars that are going to be about 3 wide as the field comes up on them. Oh, gosh.
Well, there's contact there. That's McCann into the back of one of the lap cars. That's going to send off a huge melee down through the tri-oval. The front about 6 cars make it through safely, but wow, that was a massive mistake there from the 33.
Yeah, Kevin McCann is probably going to be the most hurt by that. He lost a ton of ground Well, watch here as they're coming up on the lap cars. They were about 3 wide at one point. They finally got sorted out on where they wanted to go, but just unfortunately too big of a speed differential there for the lead lap cars to really get a feel for it. The 3 car was able to take evasive action, but following that close, the 33 probably couldn't even see where the car was in relation to him.
Yeah, and you see the orange car there, that orange lap car that they were getting around, he was right up against the wall. That next car that actually ended up being a part of the incident, unfortunately, they just were about a car width, maybe a car and a half, car width and a half away from the wall to cause that one. That's unfortunate to see, but that's the second or third time we've also seen that. I think that for some of these guys, I think they're going to have to just learn from it and realize, hey, if the leaders are coming, we're going to have to get out of the way. But some of these guys are able to make it through. Here's another replay. This is going to be spectacular from Curtis Rogers. Pretty far back in the pack, but you see the wreck developing here. As cars go to the outside, you see the 3 wide in front of him from those slower cars. And let's look at this as he works his way towards the tri-oval. You see the smoke. And whoa, just threads the needle. There was that slight contact with the bump in front, but for the most part, I think that contact is going to be okay.
Yeah, that was definitely a hold your breath moment. And we talked about it before. We have 3 opportunities at a green-white checker. We're going to get our first one here in just a second once we get all this cleaned up and realigned. So it'll be a green-white checker here. Basically what that means for those of you unfamiliar, they'll take the green and come back around. If they make it to the white, then next flag ends it. If they have another caution, then we'll stack them and re-rack them and try again.
Brian McCann works his way down pit road from the 3rd position, so he's going to lose a ton of spots. But I think he might have had to for fuel. He was running lap 26 on his tank. A lot of these guys there's basically 2 factions of cars out there. Guys that pitted 26 laps ago and guys that pitted 18 laps ago. Most of the field, including Smith, Funkhauser, Radfords, and Rogers, they all pitted 18 laps ago. So they have some fuel left in the tank, but the guys just stayed out for quite some time, whether that's Higginbotham or Quick, one of the Radfords in there as well. Those guys all pitted 26 laps ago. They're going to be getting tight on fuel as we continue to work our way around for these green-white checkered attempts.
Yeah, and if we don't make it through this first one and have to stack them up again, then that's like half of your top 5 cars that are gonna end up having to hit pit road if we have more than one attempt. And we already saw the 3 car that couldn't make it, and he was running right up front.
Yeah, so we're down to now about, let's say, 17 cars now on the lead lap, and I want to say there's about 17 cars then that have a shot for the win, just because you don't know what's going to happen with how these wrecks have developed.
Well, looks like we're still working on getting formed up here. Do you believe the lights are still on? Nope. Nope, they've gone out. So now we're going to get them stacked 2 wide here for our first green-white checker attempt.
He's got significant damage to his car, as he was one that was involved in the last wreck, but the 33 of Kevin McCann does stay out, and he's missing the entire back end of that race car. So he's going to have a fun time of it as he restarts from, I believe, the 8th position, as it looks like the caution has been pushed back. Lights are back on the pace car, so we got 1 extra caution lap that has been added as the field tries to get formed up.
Well, probably makes sense to do an extra lap here. The field was still a little bit chaotic trying to get sorted out, so we'll just push it back another lap here. So
still Smith from Higginbotham, then Funkhauser and Quick followed by the two Radfords, your top six. And one of your biggest movers right now, Ray Radford, from 35th all the way to 6th. There's only 36 cars. He went from second to last, now up just outside of the top 5. A significant and fantastic run there from Ray Radford.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to spend your race.
Pole sitter Aaron Smith, of course, leading the race. He's led the start. He's leading now. He wants to lead that last one. We'll have to wait and see how things develop for him in the 70. He just wants to hold that yellow line, and if he gets a good enough... The biggest thing here is you don't want to get too good of a jump. You don't want to be swallowed up by the field because you're on your lonesome while everybody else has a full head of steam behind you.
Yeah, as the control car, managing this restart is going to be the big difference maker here. You have to be able to get a clean enough break that you don't end up dropping back through the field, but you don't want to get too good of a run because you can get out and get too much daylight between yourself and the rest of the field, and the next thing you know, they get formed up behind you and you are just absolutely swallowed up.
Here we are on board with Brian McCann. He worked his way down pit lane for fuel during that during this caution. He needed to pit for fuel as he was, I think, running low. So he came down, took some fuel. He came back out, now running in the 11th position. So he's going to start there. Only a couple laps to go as we get set for the green-white checkered. You have to wonder about fuel for some of these guys, whether that's Higginbotham or Quick or even Ray Radford. Those guys are going to be close on fuel. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out for them. But the pace lights on the lights on the pace car are off as we work our way through 3 and 4 for what could be one of the final times here under caution. First attempt at a green-white checkered. And we're getting set for what should be a fantastic couple lap shootout here from Daytona.
Yeah, and you wonder what that extra lap of caution may have done for those guys that were close on fuel also.
Pace car pulls off, the revs begin to build for these cars, and we get set for what should be a fantastic shootout here from Daytona. Smith gets away clean, but Higginbotham doesn't give up much ground as he's going to tuck right back to the inside. 70 links up for the 44. They drive and dive their way down to turn number 1.
Well, a bit of a mixed bag on that restart. Kind of surprised to see the field space out like it has, but we're back underway here, and drivers will have a chance to get formed up and make a move here.
Yeah, so still Smith from Higginbotham. But these guys have really just set themselves in a single file line. I think that for the most part, they know when they have to make their moves, but who's going to be the first to do it? They come away. If they take the white, they're just going to be racing back to the line. And as they take the white flag, it's going to be Smith. A huge run, though, further back as Brian McCann works his way up several spots. He's got a massive run here during going down to turn number 1, but he's got no help to the outside.
Yeah, this is going to take some bravery from at least 2 drivers. Somebody's got to make the move out, and somebody's got to go with them for this to work.
This is one of those where if you're Higginbotham, you just peek to the outside and you pray that somebody comes with you. It looks like he's just going to stick right there on the back bumper of the number 70 car. Funkhauser does not make the move yet, and I think it's going to be too little too late. Who's going to make the move? Is anybody even going to try something on the outside? Working their way on the final lap here towards turn, not a turn number 4, towards the tri-oval, and who's going to get it at the line? That's close. And that's going to be Smith by 11 thousandths of a second. And third is going to be by Funkhauser. All 3 of your podium finishers going to be within a 1/10 of a second. Fantastic battle to the end. And let's look back and see just how close this was.
Yeah, Higginbotham waited till the very last second to make a move. Seemed like it kind of threw the cars behind him for a loop. But the 81 of Funkhauser stays loyal to the 70, and I think that may have been the difference maker.
Look just how close this is as they come to the line. There must not be more than about 4 inches between these two cars at the line. That is close.
Yeah, it definitely does not get much closer than that.
And with that, Smith takes the victory to start the season, and a fantastic way to start it as he gets some celebratory donuts. We'll take a short break and be back with your full field results as well as some post-race interviews here on the Global SimRacing Channel.
Spartan Transportation and Spartan Logistic Management is your one source for all your shipping needs. 53-foot dry van shipments, auto transport shipments, full-service in-house brokerage, drop lot facilities, just-in-time deliveries to all auto manufacturers, facilities in St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and Indianapolis, Indiana. Spartan Logistics LLC, proud sponsor of the IROC series, Kyle Steffens UMP Modified and Silver Crown driver, and Gordy Gundaker, World of Outlaws late model. Visit us at spartan-logistics.net or find us on Facebook.
And to open the season with a fantastic bit of racing here in the IROC Challenge, Aaron Smith starts the season with the first points being dished out, as he's going to be followed up by Jason Higginbotham, who took second place, then Joshua Funkhauser and Troy Radford, followed up by Cook Quick and Ray Radford. Then you got Brian McCann and Brandon Mefford finishing 8th, and Neil Quick followed by Curtis Rogers, rounding out your top 10.
Coming home in the 11th spot was Doug Basaki, with Hunter Tate right behind him. Chris Mefford was lucky 13th on the grid, or on the finishing sheets. Kevin McCann unfortunately slides to 14th after running towards the front for most of the event. Damon Cox, a top 15 finish after a pretty quiet day. Then Mike Cook and Hunter Clark, last two on the lead lap. Then it's going to be Donnie Lyons, Timothy Woodson, and David Trumbley completing your top 20.
Yeah, plenty of drivers here finishing off the lead lap, especially with those last couple of cautions that came out. Gary Ragland was one of those 2 laps down with finishing 21st. Then Wally, David Brown, Mike Harper. There you see the rest of the finishers several laps down on your screen. That was a fantastic bit of racing with Aaron Smith getting the checkered flag at the end of it, and we're going to be joined by him here in the booth now. Aaron, fantastic bit of racing. You started out front, and that's right where you finished.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting it to go that well there at that last restart. I thought the bottom line was going to get a really good run on me because I saw a couple of them stall back at the start, and I tried to restart as late as I could there in the restart zone. But fortunately, Jason sat behind me and waited until the last minute, and I was able to counter it. And, they put on a really good race there. I'm surprised it finished out that well, to be honest.
Now, coming to the restart there on that last green-white checkered, what was going through your mind? What was the strategy? Was it just hold the yellow line and pray?
Yeah, I wanted Jason behind me because he pushed me really well in that last run and the run before that, if I recall correctly. And I was looking back to see where the McCanns were because they were there fighting for it there for a while, but I guess they needed fuel or got involved in that wreck or whatever. But I'm glad it worked out in my favor there.
Yeah, first points-paying race of the season, and kind of the way that it delved out, it's not going to be a similar course to what you might see later on in the season. But what were your thoughts the opening round and what we've got coming up?
Well, to start the season off like that, certainly a lot better than I was expecting. But I'm looking forward to the next couple races we have going on here. I'm not too good in these cars, but I've been getting a lot better at saving the tires in these stock cars. So we'll see how it goes, and hopefully I'll come back out on top.
Yeah, it was a fantastic bit of racing. You seem to be up front just about all day, and that was great to see from you. And of course, you finished there at the top step of the podium. Do you have anybody that you want to thank tonight?
I'd like to thank everyone at the IROC Challenge for putting this show on, y'all broadcasting, and all the folks in the field for putting on a solid race, and everyone for watching. Looking forward to getting back at it next week.
Well, congratulations on the win to open the season, and best of luck the rest of the way.
All right, thank you.
That's Aaron Smith, your winner tonight here from Daytona to start the season. So congratulations to Aaron. And let's get some final thoughts here as we wrap things up. Chris, what were your thoughts on the opening event?
Well, 2 races back-to-back in Daytona between the shootout and this one. Both very exciting events in very different ways, kind of showing the variety here. But drivers that have shown a lot of skill in the Super Speedway Wars, they're now going to have to take it to some more unique courses coming up. I know we have Rockingham coming up soon, and I believe we have IRP on the list as well. So a lot of interesting tracks within the schedule, a very diverse schedule. And this was just a nice taste of what we're in store for with this series.
We've got an off week next week here in the series, but from there, we head to Auto Club Speedway for the next round. That's August 4th, but have to, as we wrap things up here, thank all the sponsors who helped put this on, whether that's Zoe's Place, R&R Racewear, as well as Evidence-Based Mommy, Lucky Finn, Loud Pedal TV, 5-Star Graphics, and of course all the organizers that helped put this event on. Thanks to the team today, Chris, Joe, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store listed on your screen, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As I mentioned, next race here in the series is August 4th at Auto Club Speedway, and be sure to check out the rest of our broadcasts that are listed here. Up next on GSRC is going to be the Grand Prix Legends on Saturday, racing from Fuji at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.